Welcome back to the channel. Got another little story to tell today. This is a story about the biggest buck that I didn't get, that I missed a chance at. But first, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. So, when was it? It was 2008. I was up in Iowa working on the ranch full time, and finally got, once you're up in Iowa, you have to be a resident, so to make it easier to hunt for sure. So the first 2 years I was up there, I wasn't a resident. Then I started working full time, and I went and I got ready to go hunting. Well, there's an Army ammunition plant not too far from where I lived, and one of the guys I worked with, he'd been hunting out there for years. Actually, both the full-time guys up there hunted there for years. But yeah, both the guys hunted up there for years, and me and the guy, we got the application and you have to put in and see if you get drawn for it. You have to go get a background check and everything like that, put in for it. So we got drawn for archery season and late muzzleloader. Archery season's hard for you to hunt because you're guiding on the ranch during archery season. But we would go every time we had a chance, a day off or anything like that. And the thing about the ammunition plant is you had to shoot a doe first. And we went out there, and I don't remember, the corn was still standing, and the guy I was hunting with, we went out there one night, and he went into this one stand and shot a doe, and we drug her out and checked her in and everything, and he's good to go. Now he can start hunting bucks for archery season anyway. And I decided, you know what, I really need to get this doe. So I asked the ranch manager, the next week we didn't have enough clients coming in for everyone to have a person to guide. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and get a doe. Well, someone showed up early and I ended up having to guide. But the next morning, shot a pretty good deer with him, and his wife shot that night, the first night, and then they went home like the next day after we shot one. So it was my chance to go out there, and I went out there, went to this one stand that wasn't really hard to get to if you had to drag anything. So went up in there, and I wasn't there probably an hour when I got my doe. Well, there's these two stands that we put up in there, and they were really hard to get to. I mean, mine wasn't too hard to get to, but it did have a lot of draws and stuff you had to, or creek drainages that you had to go up and down to go through. The other guy had to walk about a mile up a creek to get to his. But I had to walk maybe half a mile down at the yard fence. And in the Army ammunition plant, they have places where they store the ammunition and everything. So they have fences that keep people out of it, of course. So I'd walk down the fence and get up in my stand. Well, this was getting close to Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving. And I guess the day before Thanksgiving, we went out there in the afternoon. Everybody had left and climbed up in the stands, and I was sitting there, and man, it was right during the rut, and this doe came in there and I've never seen so many bucks chasing this one doe. And what's funny is the other guy saw him at his stand too, because she ran by his stand earlier. And they ran in. They never got close enough. But I'm telling you, there was several big bucks. I saw a 140-inch 7-point. He was in with them, running, chasing her. And then he walked off, and then right at dark, he walked right by the stand. So we went home that night, and the next morning we woke up early, Thanksgiving morning, and we went out there, and it was cold. It was really cold. I had my big jacket on, in my bibs. They were the Ultimate Fleece, but I always carried them in a bag so they wouldn't get little stick tats all over them. Carried them in the bag and carried them on my back. Had a bow sling and everything, and I'd walk in there and pretty much just my thermals to walk into the stand so I wouldn't get too hot when I was walking back there, because it was, like I said, it was a good little hike. I get there, put warm clothes on, leave them unzipped because I'm still hot, even though I get up in there, even though I was just wearing my thermals. I climb up in the stand, get up, sit there, cool off a little bit, and then zip up so I stay warm and start hunting. And it was, man, the night before was awesome. There was deer running everywhere and chasing does, and it was pretty cool. The next morning, all I saw was a coyote. And I can't remember if I shot that coyote or not. I know I thought about it. But I sat there until about 9 o'clock, 9:30, and we had to get back. Couldn't stay out there too long. Had to get back and get ready for Thanksgiving. We were having Thanksgiving over at his house, and with all the other guides that were still in town that didn't fly home for Thanksgiving. So we walked out, or I started walking out, and I was walking down, and I'll never forget it. Hopefully I'll never forget it, but for the rest of my life, I'll never forget this deer. I was walking down I'd walk up and hit the yard fence, and I'm walking along, and I'm just, looking, and there's nothing you can't, you're up against the fence, you can't really do anything. And walking down, just kind of looking around and get to the first draw, or no, the second draw. Went down the first draw, climbed up a hill, and then it goes almost right down into the second draw again. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something. I'm like, what was that? And I stopped. And I got a little bitty tree dog, that big around. Wasn't as big then as I am now. And I look over, and I see there's a deer standing there, but he's just below the ridge a little bit. And I'm like, throw my binoculars up. Man, that's a big deer. It's a big deer. I knew he was big as soon as my binoculars hit him. Like, get down, get behind the tree. And I'm sitting there, and I don't have I'm back in my thermals pretty much. And I got my bow slung up and everything, and so I get down and I get everything ready. I take my bow loose, get it ready, get my release back on, get an arrow knocked in it, take my rangefinder and throw it up there, 40 yards. And during that summer, before when I got drawn, during that summer, I probably shot 150, 200 shots, and I never, at 40 yards off the front porch of my house every day. Never missed a day. Every afternoon after work, I shot that bow 150, 200 times. So I knew I was looking at it and I was like, there's a little spot. If I could just get him to come up the ridge a little bit further, there's a little spot right there. It's probably 8 inches. I said, I can get an arrow through there. So got ready, I got my bow, I got hit, but I didn't draw. And that was my mistake. I grunted to get to see if he would come up the ridge some. And when I grunted, he stood up. He was sleeping. He was bedded down there sleeping. And he stood up and looked right at me. That 8-inch circle right over his vitals. And then I could really see how big he was when he looked at me. That sucker had me dead to rights. I couldn't draw. I was just sitting there. If I went to move a little bit, he just was sitting there looking at me. I just said, okay, well, we gotta see. So I started drawing, got about 3 inches of pull on that bow, and that deer turned and ran off. He was a 190. I went back to the truck, and I was like, probably hanging my head down, and my buddy was already there. And I walk up, and I think we had my truck, because he had a ranch truck. I had a ranch truck, but I had my personal truck too, and we just kept our stuff, his bow, my bow, everything in that truck during hunting season. So if we got a chance to go, we could just go, you know. It was already in there, didn't have to pack nothing up, kept that set of hunting clothes in there and everything. So I was ready to go hunting. Anytime I got a chance, if I got an afternoon off or anything like that. So I get in the truck and he's like, what's up? And I told him the story. He's like, oh man, how big was he? I said, he was big. I said, he was big. He was, at the time I was like, he was probably 185, 190. And went back to the ranch, went in and sat down and told the story to the other guys that were in the office there, and they were like, after the day after Thanksgiving, and they're like, and the ranch manager was like, how big was he? And he had a deer up on the wall that he had shot out there. I pointed up to the wall and said, he was that deer right there, almost his twin. And except it had a split G2, and I said except the split was deeper. And he's like, that deer is like mid 190s. And I said, I said, it's the same deer, probably the same deer. So I missed out on him because I couldn't tell that the deer was sleeping. I was rushing, and if I would have just drawn that bow back before I grunted, there would probably be a big deer sitting right here behind me on the wall. It'd have been the biggest deer I ever shot. So, and you know, I have one at the house. It's at my dad's house. It's a 178 that I shot here in Texas, which it's a big deer. It's non-typical, but this one was pretty typical. It would have been quite a deer. I wish I had a picture of it. I wish I had video of it, but they didn't let you carry stuff like that inside the plant. So the film would be old film, and you wouldn't be able to tell nothing from it anyway. But that's the story of the biggest deer that I ever missed. I didn't even get a shot at him because I was messed up and didn't take my time with the situation. But in that situation, when you walk up on one, you don't know you have that much time. And he was just wore out from probably chasing does all night, and he was just out. So if I could go back in time, do it all over again, I would have drawn that bow back, and at least I would have got a chance to shoot through that 8-inch circle in the brush. But I'm pretty sure I would have got him. But it is what it is. But that's the story of my biggest deer I missed out on. So we'll hope y'all enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all next time.